This is India at 9, broadcasting live from the CNN-IBN headquarters in New Delhi with Rajdeep Sardesai.
Good evening, hello and welcome to India at 9. The news, the newsmakers, the talking points as always on your primetime destination. This Thursday night on India at 9, a day after the Supreme Court verdict criminalizing gay sex triggers an uproar. The Congress leadership, including Rahul Gandhi, has come out in support of gay rights. But with few other political parties still backing that Supreme Court ruling, the big question we are asking, are our members of parliament simply scared to pass a legislation to decriminalize homosexuality? That's our big talking point once again and our top focus tonight on India at 9. The big headline.
My personal view is that these are matters of personal freedom. I would agree more with the High Court. I think these type of matters should be left to individuals, and these are their choices.
Rahul Gandhi makes a rare intervention, joins the chorus of Congress voices hitting out at the Supreme Court verdict decriminalizing gay sex. Sonia Gandhi and P. Chidambaram call it regressive. The BJP and most other parties, though, are staying silent. Is a consensus possible on the contentious Article 377? And we'll raise the big question, are our members of parliament simply too scared to pass a legislation to decriminalize homosexuality? That's not all. There's plenty more as always in our other headlines tonight. As Anna Hazare's fast enters day 3, the government now indicates the redrafted Lokpal bill will be introduced in parliament tomorrow. The BJP too is likely to support the anti-corruption legislation. The BJP rejects the offer to form a government in Delhi. The Lieutenant Governor now invites the Aam Aadmi Party. Rahul Gandhi says his party is considering giving support to Kejriwal. A Cobra Post sting operation exposes how 11 MPs across party lines allegedly agreed to lobby for a fictitious Australian company in exchange for a fee from 50,000 to 50 lakhs. The big question, MPs caught lobbying for a fake firm. Is this just the tip of the iceberg? That's a question too we'll raise on India at 9. The Supreme Court asked the Uttar Pradesh government to hold an inquiry into an IBN 7 report on the death of 50 children in a Muzaffarnagar riot relief camp. CNN-IBN spends a night at one of the relief camps and finds the state government has even stopped supply of essential commodities. A setback for the Akhilesh Yadav government ahead of the 2014 general elections. The Allahabad High Court says that state government can't withdraw terror cases without the centre's consent. There are more worrying signs for the economy. Inflation hits a 9-month high. Industrial production contracts 1.8% in October. And British Prime Minister David Cameron in a sticky spot after posing for a selfie with Obama at Mandela's funeral. Clarifies in Parliament it was only a tribute to Madiba. But first tonight, that big story we've been tracking. A day after the Supreme Court said it was up to Parliament to legislate and decriminalize homosexuality and refused to reject Article 377, senior ministers in the UPA government have spoken out. They are now saying they are mulling a review or a curative petition against the Supreme Court ruling that upheld sections 377. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi has also questioned the Supreme Court verdict, expressing support for the Delhi High Court verdict instead, which decriminalized homosexuality. Earlier, Congress President UPA Chairperson Sonia Gandhi also said she was disappointed with the Supreme Court verdict, calling it regressive and urging Parliament to pass a bill legalizing gay sex. The BJP remaining evasive about the issue. Sushma Swaraj saying the government should call an all-party meeting if it wants to make any changes in the law. Senior Editor Political Pallavi Ghosh has our top story tonight.
In this anger, the Congress has found an opportunity to reach out to the middle class, the educated classes and the youth. Just a day after the Supreme Court overturned a Delhi High Court verdict decriminalizing gay sex, Sonia Gandhi criticized that verdict. She said, and I quote, "The High Court had wisely removed an archaic, repressive and unjust law that infringed on the basic human rights enshrined in our Constitution. I hope that Parliament will address this issue and uphold the constitutional guarantee of life and liberty to all citizens of India."
My personal view is that these are matters of personal freedom. And I think I would agree more with the High Court.
Sources say the government is seriously considering the possibility of filing a review petition in the Supreme Court or even promulgating an ordinance.
I would urge that the government move the Supreme Court for review or straight away file a curative petition, ask that the case be heard by a bench of 5 judges.
First of all, I think this is not a law that fits in with the times. In the 21st century, you can't have antediluvian and anachronistic laws like this, as are reflected in Section 377 of the Penal Code.
It's the middle and youth class which the Congress hopes to win back through this move. But there's a serious worry that since it's a political hot potato, lawmakers may not pass a bill decriminalizing homosexuality. The BJP remains non-committal, with some members openly supporting the Supreme Court verdict. The CPIM is in favor of decriminalizing gay sex. The Trinamool Congress also disagrees with the Supreme Court verdict. The Samajwadi Party and BSP seem reluctant to make a stand.
होमोसेक्सुअलिटी को सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, उनका अप्रोच पूरी तरह नेगेटिव है। हम लोगों का ये मानना है कि जो सामाजिक नैतिकता के लिए खतरनाक है।
I can tell you from my gut feel, this ain't going to pass in Parliament. At least in the next 10-15 years, I don't see that happening.
The question is, why didn't the government, in the years since the landmark 2009 Delhi High Court verdict, bring a legislation? Was it because it feared losing conservative votes?
Caught on a back foot, the Congress certainly wants to project a progressive image. But is this mere political posturing or vote bank compulsions will force the government to become silent once again? With Bureau Inputs in New Delhi, Pallavi Ghosh.
Okay, the big question we are raising, are our members of parliament simply scared to pass a legislation to decriminalize homosexuality? That's our big talking point tonight. Joining me now in a moment, Abhishek Manu Singhvi, Congress Member of Parliament and spokesperson. BJ Panda, Biju Janata Dal's MP is with us. Sabir Ali of the Janata Dal United. Chapal Mehra, writer and activist for gay rights. And Anand Grover, advocate for the Naz Foundation that had taken this matter to the courts. Let me come to you, Jai Panda, first. I want to know, why is it that I'm not seeing more and more politicians making their stand clear? We've heard today from Sonia Gandhi, we've heard from Rahul Gandhi, we've heard from P. Chidambaram. The Congress suddenly seems to have woken up to this reality. But what about the opposition? What about your party, the Biju Janata Dal? What about the Bharatiya Janata Party? Why aren't political parties willing to take a stand on this issue? Is it because it's a hot potato?
Rajdeep, I would like to say that anybody who lives in the 21st century shares the dismay that many people have expressed with the Supreme Court's judgment on this issue.
Yes.
Now, not just people who live in the 21st century, but you know, I come from a state where we have the Sun Temple of Konark, which was built in the 12th century. And clearly in the 12th century, this was acceptable because it was available for public display for all to see. Now, politics, however, is a profession where people are elected by the public and they have to take into account the public's viewpoint. And it is far from certain that there is as much of a widespread support across the country as we can see in terms of activists.
Right.
Now, personally, many of us can express our view in support of modernizing the law. But the fact is that you do need a majority of MPs to agree before a law can be passed. Now, in a court it is different. Particularly the Supreme Court is not hostage to any kind of arithmetic of numbers.
Right.
It is there to interpret the Constitution. It is there to protect individuals and give them the constitutional protection they deserve, no matter how small the group, no matter how minuscule it is.
So you're admitting that MPs are
my
scared.
point is this.
You're admitting that MPs are scared that the public sentiment may not support you going out on a limb and saying decriminalize gay sex. Is that what you're essentially saying? That there is a fear factor, that maybe it's not in tune with the majority opinion?
Well, clearly some MPs are not scared. You have just pointed out many members of the UPA who have spoken out in favor.
Yes.
Now, I hope that they are actually speaking from principle and not because they've got nothing left to lose.
That's the...
but, you know, some MPs, some of us are actually speaking up personally in favor of modernizing the law. But the reality is very simple. The arithmetic is very simple. Unless you get a majority of MPs on board, it will be difficult to pass a law.
Right.
But I suspect, considering that this has got a lot of support in the media, this has got a lot of support from activists.
Yes.
I suspect if the government brings an ordinance, it will not face the kind of resistance that you saw in the case of the earlier ordinance, which
so you would support an ordinance?
Supreme Court judgment on.
You would support an ordinance if the government brought an ordinance. You would support it.
Look, if you ask my personal opinion, of course I would want to modernize the law. I would not oppose a government ordinance, but I would have to take it to my party.
Okay.
I want to make one other point, Rajdeep, here.
Yes.
You know, even if I want to bring a law, or even if my party wants to bring a law, it doesn't work like that. In a parliamentary democracy, the only laws which are passed are the ones that government brings.
I'll just come.
So the first
let
step
me therefore take to the government
to bring that.
Let me take that to the government. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, today suddenly I'm hearing Sonia Gandhi coming out with a press statement, Rahul Gandhi making a rare intervention, if only for 10 seconds, Mr. Chidambaram speaking out, Kapil Sibal speaking out. Why has it taken 4 long years since the Delhi High Court verdict for the Congress and the UPA government to suddenly find its voice on Article 377? Is it because, as Jai Panda says, today the Congress has nothing to lose and is desperate in a sense for this vote of the urban youth, which you believe may well support you on this issue?
Rajdeep, there are many issues you've raised. Allow me to answer them one by one.
Yes.
I don't think you can have that much of cynicism as to attribute anything which we do to desperation.
Yes.
First of all, let me set the record straight.
Yes.
The Congress-led government was the one which did not appeal the High Court judgment.
Yes.
Number 2, it left it to each of the 2 ministries to take a stand, and the Attorney General also left it to the court ultimately as a counsel for the court. Third and most important, yesterday itself, on the day of the judgment, have said very categorically, which I want to repeat in your channel, that personally I would vote for a change, for a decriminalization, and that the judgment has only said that the Parliament should do it. That's a different matter, but certainly we should. Now, within 24 hours, if the Congress President and the Congress Vice President say this, I don't think you call it suddenly, because 24 hours is not too long to avoid a knee-jerk reaction.
Dr. Singh, Dr. Singhvi, I don't want you to mislead. Therefore, I just want to make a point, and then you can respond. I don't want you to mislead, because the fact is, your government has done repeated flip-flops before both the High Court and the Supreme Court in the last 5 years. During the hearings on the matter, the Ministry of Home Affairs lawyer said, and I quote now, sir, the legislature, which represents the will of the people, has decided not to delete Article 377. It is not for the court to impose the extraordinary moral values and thrust the same upon the society. Your Home Ministry takes one line, your government refuses to take a stand for 5 years, and now suddenly, after a media outcry, Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi speak up.
It's very unfair, Rajdeep, extremely unfair, because first of all, you don't quote the Health Ministry affidavit, which supported the judgment.
That's exactly the worry. Health Ministry says one thing, Home Ministry says something else.
One sec. If you will allow me to speak,
please
Rajdeep,
go ahead.
You have hardly allowed me to speak.
Please go ahead.
Secondly, we made the point in the court, recorded in the court order, that we did not appeal the High Court judgment.
Yes.
Saying that you can let it lie as a dead letter. That's the important point recorded in the judgment, which is one of the reasons why the Supreme Court says, let Parliament decide. Because they say that the government has not appealed, we will not decide then, we will throw the ball back.
Why couldn't the cabinet have done this 4 years ago, sir? Why couldn't the cabinet have done this 4 years ago?
1 minute. No, 1 minute, see.
Yes.
Why couldn't is not a question. This is a matter which has stood the test of time for 150 years. It is not something which is only our responsibility to change the law.
Yes.
It has to generate a consensus. It is certainly my view, and I will vote like that in Parliament. It may be the view of several other persons.
Yes.
Now, in the event that an ordinance is got, then of course there is no need for all this consensus. But before you bring an ordinance, you have to look at every other quarter. It's not just a knee-jerk reaction. Today, you can rest assured that if the government has been left with the Supreme Court's prerogative has been given to the government, then the government will exercise it. Now, whether they do it by the ordinance route or by the legislation route is a different matter.
But would you...
And one more thing, Rajdeep.
Yes, sir.
When we do it, one very important thing, when we do it, we are talking only of decriminalization of private consensual gay sex.
Yes.
We are not talking, as the debate I see since yesterday getting confused repeatedly, about legalizing same-sex marriages, about inheritance rights, about a whole host of other things. That doesn't flow from 377. The core of 377, which liberals should support, according to me, that's my personal opinion, is the fact that you can't criminalize consensual activity like that.
I take your point.
I have no hesitation in saying that this will happen.
It's good to hear that. All I'm asking, I want a concession from you, sir.
Yes.
Would you concede? Would you concede that this could have been done earlier, and your government lost the opportunity after that Delhi High Court ruling to speak out in the kind of clarity that I saw your government speak out today? Would you concede that at least?
To that extent, certainly the specificity with which we have said it now was not there in the two rival affidavits. I agree with you.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that.
But we did not at the same time, Rajdeep, appeal.
Yes.
Because this affidavit thing happened even in the High Court.
Yes.
We did not appeal thereafter. And we could have appealed. So we said what we were really saying is, and I agree that there was some ambiguity in the way we put it, but we were saying clearly is that now that the court has taken a decision, we'd rather let things lie and not criminalize it all over again. That's the crux and the essence of what we said. So I don't think the government took a stand which was anti this issue. We did take an issue against criminalization.
Well, you know, you
take a stand against criminalization.
There was a lack of clarity. Home Ministry and Health Ministry saying different things. But I'll come back to you, Dr. Singhvi. Shabir Ali of the Janata Dal United. You know, you are among those MPs today who I have heard openly in Parliament come out in support of the Supreme Court judgment. It's interesting. Extreme voices within within Muslim MPs as well as the likes of Aditya Nath from the Hindu right are both coming out in support of the Supreme Court. Is it because you want to play the Muslim conservative card and they want to play the Hindu conservative card? You don't want to antagonize traditionalists. You are not here interested about gay rights or sexual freedom. Am I right?
See, Rajdeep, there is 2-3 issues involved. It's not so easy to talk and walk away with all this issue.
Yes.
You have said directly you went on the Kiyan, the minority and the Muslim, and that's what I'm talking about. That's not correct. It's a matter of the personal feeling, opinion, the culture, whatsoever you can call upon. Is my feeling. I do not know my party, what is the stand they have. This is not.
No, but it's interesting that you and Yogi Adityanath,
exactly
who are opposed on every other issue, have found unity on this issue.
I am welcoming. See, Rajdeep, if you allow me, you have allowed other people to speak.
Yes, go ahead.
If you will not give me a time, I cannot say my statement. See, the matter is, this is my opinion.
Yes.
Clear. I welcoming the judgment, number one. Number two,
yes.
There is several, is a male, female, there is a gay, and then another, I do not want to use all those words.
Yes.
There is, but we have to look at which kind of things can be, shut it out. But what the judgment today is overall, I am welcoming that.
You're welcoming that. It's very interesting that Shabir Ali and Yogi Adityanath, personal
opinion.
View. Okay. Chapal Mehra.
Exactly.
Chapal Mehra, you're hearing. Shabir Ali representing one view, Jai Panda representing another view. You're hearing contrarian views from our MPs. Do you really believe, given these contrarian views, that MPs have the political will to pass a contentious legislation repealing Article 377? Today, when you suddenly hear a Rahul Gandhi speaking out, Sonia Gandhi speaking out, do you fear it was too little, too late? They should have spoken out 4 years ago when that High Court ruling came out. That was the window of opportunity.
Well, I think the window of opportunity still exists. I think the fact that some of our politicians are speaking out for gay rights is actually a very welcome development. Of course, I think this could have been done much earlier. I think most of them don't realize that this is not just about gay rights. It's about human rights, and it's also about minority rights. You know, it's ironic Mr. Ali is going on and on about tradition and culture and modernity and the lack of things thereof. But the truth of the matter is that this judgment affects all minorities. When you take away the rights of one minority, you open the narrative arc for really reducing the minority rights of everybody.
That's an interesting argument you're making, that today it could be gays, tomorrow it could be another minority.
It could be any other minority. And you know what is even more interesting right now is that if we really explain to the MPs, and I think this is something very important for them to understand, that this is about human rights, this is about minority rights, you cannot take away these rights. These rights are given to us by the Constitution of India. So when they are not legislating on it properly, they are actually violating the Constitution of India, like this judgment in some ways does.
Strong words there. Anand Grover, you are the lawyer in the case. Would I be right in saying that if the government, indeed Parliament, had shown some clarity, shown the initiative 4 years ago to change the law or express itself clearly before the court, we would not have reached the stage which we've reached today?
Well, I agree with you to some extent that the government could have seized the opportunity after the Delhi High Court judgment, but I would disagree with you that the government stand was not clear in the court.
Yes.
It is true that Mr. Malhotra, who appeared as the ASG, made a different point. Then he was pulled out,
right,
and Mr. Mohan Jain made the stand clear, and then the learned Attorney General himself came and made the stand very clear. There was no question of any room to doubt. Now the main problem is, I think the learned members of Parliament probably do not understand what is at stake. Chappal is right. It is about rights and fundamental rights and human rights. You know what the judgment has said, and I want Abhishek Singhvi to say whether he thinks is right or not.
Yes.
It says if it's a minuscule minority, their rights are not important. They don't have fundamental rights. So look at the situation in India, in Bombay itself, where I come from. There are several groups who are a minority. They don't even have a lack of population. They have no fundamental rights. That's the logic of this judgment. It's a deplorable judgment, a stain on the Supreme Court's history on constitutional values. They have denuded human rights and fundamental rights. So I think it is about time that it is spoken like this. And I'm very happy that people like Vikram Seth. So I want to. Yes. So the point is that the parliamentarians should understand this is nothing to do with religion. It's to do with individual freedoms, a human right, and even if there's one person whose human right and fundamental right is infringed, they have a right to challenge a law, and the duty of the court is to strike it down. It's a depressing moment for people like us who expect the Supreme Court to actually uphold fundamental rights, to expand them, to see them denuded. It is on par with the emergency Supreme Court judgment which said that we can shoot a person and the Supreme Court would not come to the aid of this. Do our people want to see that kind of Supreme Court? This is a huge issue.
Can I just take that? Values. Can I just take what you've said to Abhishek Manu Singhvi? Abhishek Manu Singhvi, respond to what you're hearing. That this is a moment where our parliament must stand up. If you are true to the constitution, if you are true to what Baba Saheb Ambedkar said about individual rights, about right to life, right to dignity, this is a moment for our parliamentarians across party lines to stand up.
Look, that is a matter of consensus, and you have to ask 550 odd parliamentarians or 750 odd parliamentarians. You can't impose a consensus. I respect the spirit and the view which Mr. Grover and others of his ilk have.
Yes.
And I have already said that I for one would stand up and vote.
Yes.
Second point I want to make is that we must be clear, and we sometimes evoke a reaction because we don't frame the issue correctly, Rajdeep, and to some extent, to that extent, people like Mr. Grover's ilk are also guilty of that. We are talking of a narrow issue, only do not criminalize it. When we say that as if we are encouraging these rights or encouraging homosexuality or having gay marriages or having license, it evokes a whole number of other questions. They may be valid in their own right, but today we are talking and I am saying criminalization of private consensual sex is wrong. Third and most important.
Yes.
I don't think it's fair to the Supreme Court or the judge, and I have told you I disagree with this, but yet I must say in fairness, it is wrong for for the judge and the Supreme Court that they are saying that merely because it's a minuscule, therefore they have no rights. I've also read it yesterday. That para does say just because a minuscule minority says this, they are saying not that they don't have a right. They are saying it doesn't mean that this is the acceptable opinion around the country.
They have gone against the principle of constitutional morality.
We should be
careful. They have gone against the principle of constitutional morality.
One second.
Yes.
No, 1 minute. I am only correcting that we have to keep our sense of balance.
Yes.
Equally, I don't think we should go to the extent of saying that this is a judgment on par with ADM Jabalpur.
Yes.
Because this is a view the court had. I think just as we respect a contrary view to which I subscribe, quite frankly, I subscribe to Mr. Grover's view as far as decriminalization is concerned, we must respect the court's view. There is a value judgment involved there. And the court has made a value judgment. No, I stand referring it to Parliament. I don't think we should exaggerate the criticism, but I have no doubt that given a little bit of time and a reasonable middle path by people who oppose the judgment, it would build a consensus more easily rather than taking extreme positions.
Can I just, Jai Panda,
the issues.
Jai Panda, I'm just worried whether our political leaders at the moment, when you say this is your personal view, we don't know what our party view is, are some of our political leaders simply a step behind the youth of this country? Is there a generational issue here? Younger MPs like yourself are more willing to speak out on the issue. Older leaders who have perhaps got a more traditional conservative mindset are less willing to speak out. So that is also one of the battles. The younger India versus an older India.
Rajdip, it is true that most of the leadership of the political parties across the spectrum are senior. And it is normal for them to be cautious and not jump to conclusions, because it is normal for politicians to try and assess the public mood before they take a stand.
Right.
Now here I would like to say something. It's ironic that just recently, a few months ago, when the Supreme Court issued a judgment on convicted MPs and MLAs, some of us welcomed it immediately, because that was in line with public opinion. And yet most political parties try to overturn that with an ordinance. And it took 2 months for that ordinance to be withdrawn by the government. So today I welcome the Congress Vice President having taken a stand fairly quickly instead of waiting for 2 months. And if he means what he says, he has the ability, just as he had the ability to tear up an ordinance, he has the ability to introduce an ordinance today by this government. And let me repeat today, consensus building will take time. I don't think this government has time in its hand, because we have elections coming up. If they are serious about what they mean, they could easily bring an ordinance. I don't think it will face the kind of political opposition which they are apprehending.
Well, I can tell you one of the reasons why perhaps there will be political opposition or there is confusion is because of the stand of the BJP. You know, Sushma Swaraj was asked today and she said there should be an all-party meeting. Subramaniam Swamy agreed to come on this program, and then at 4:30 told our guest that he will not come on this program now because he's not sure what is the official BJP line. So I'm just worried whether there is any hope of any consensus, Jai Panda, in the near future. Do you really believe that the government and the opposition, particularly the BJP, is willing at this moment to take a stand on this issue? None of them have even come on this program today.
Look, obviously I cannot speak for the BJP, only the BJP can speak for themselves.
Sure.
But I think we should notice that while they haven't spoken up in favor of this, none of their top leaders have actually welcomed the court judgment yet. There are 1 or 2 people of the main opposition party who have welcomed the court judgment, but the top leadership of the main opposition party has kept quiet. Because of 2 reasons. Just like other political parties, I think they are trying to suss out what is the real public opinion. And secondly, I think, you know, clearly in recent times, new political parties have demonstrated that the middle class and the urban voters are important. We have seen that in the Delhi elections.
This is the Aam Aadmi Party effect.
And if the Congress is actually making a bid to again try to win back this electorate, this vote bank, I think if they try to push through an ordinance on this, I'm